Hello, and welcome to Rocket Fuel, your daily update of everything that's happening in the Rocket Pool and Ethereum ecosystems. My name is Wack. Today is May 12th. I'm sorry there hasn't been an episode for a few days. It's just things got a bit overwhelming with Pectra, and then I got behind and it was just really difficult to catch up. But here I am now and everything's good, so we've got a jam-packed episode for you all today. We're going to be talking about Pectra. We're going to be talking about Rocket Pool's GMC, some new rETH incentives. On the staking side, there's some client updates that you need to keep an eye on. There's a new EthStaker survey. We're going to be talking about NodeSet. On the Ethereum side, we're going to be talking about changes to the all-core devs process, pumping the gas, and a whole lot more, including stablecoins and everything else. So let's get started.
10, 9, ignition sequence start, 6.
So we're going to start here with news of Pectra. So the upgrade went through on May 7th, and here Ethereum.org was tweeting about it, saying the upgrade is in process, activating Pectra in 5 minutes, basically, from the time that this tweet was written. And then it says Pectra is live on Ethereum, smart account wallet UX interface is active, L2 scaling, data storage blobs increased by 2x, validator UX improvements are live. The community members will continue to monitor for any issues over the next 24 hours. And the upgrade was complete. There were no issues. Everything went really smoothly. It was absolutely awesome to see how great it all was. So it was a complete non-event in terms of issues or any drama or tension or anything like that, which of course is what we love to see with these upgrades. And yeah, fantastic stuff. So very soon after that, Tim Beiko was out saying thank you to everyone who contributed to getting Pectra shipped securely. It's been one of the most complex forks to scope, test and ship. Grateful for the opportunity to help shape it onto the next one. So of course there were difficulties along the way with issues for the fork on testnets, and then the Haleshi testnet breaking down and having a bad fork and all of that stuff, and then new testnet starting, the hoodie testnet starting. So there was a lot of drama with this testnet, and that's fine. It's a shame, but we got there in the end. And once it came to mainnet, which was the main step along the way, everything went as smoothly as it possibly could. So yeah, in the end, it was a successful upgrade, and it was really awesome to see that this worked out really nicely. So huge congrats to everyone, all the core devs and everyone else who worked on this. Awesome stuff. One of the main things that people cared about is blobs. That went into this upgrade, people cared about blobs. And we can see that the blob data has actually been really interesting. There's this chart here from this HillW dashboard, and it shows that basically since Pectra went live, we are now averaging around 4 blobs per block. So, previously the target was 3, and then the limit was 6. Now the target is 6 and the limit is 9. But what's really, really great here is that people are already starting to use the blobs. Blobs were saturated for many months before Pectra, and with this increase to 6, it looks like users are already starting to use the blobs, which is absolutely awesome to see. Now we've gone from 3 being the kind of limit that we were at, all the way up to 4. So that's a 33% increase from where we were just a couple of weeks ago. And it looks like we are going to keep the average moving up, in the next coming days, while people kind of realize that the L2s have gotten cheaper again, and easier to use because they're not saturated anymore. So they've gone pretty much back to free. Over here we can see that the blob submitters, it's been Base, WorldChain, Arbitrum 1, OP Mainnet, Tyco. These are the ones who are submitting blobs, including in the past 24 hours. Base has submitted 507 blobs, WorldChain 163, Arbitrum 104, and so on. So there's a whole lot of blobs here that are being submitted, and it's really cool that it's all going smoothly. So that's really cool to see. I really think I thought that it might take a little while for the blobs to get saturated again, but it looks like it might just be 2 or 3 weeks at this rate, before we're saturated again, and at that 6 blob target. And that's when, of course, we'll start burning blob fees again, burning ETH as blob fees. Now, what's really interesting is that with the Fosaka upgrade, we'll be getting more blobs. The main headline of that update is going to be PeerDAS, and that's going to give us many more blobs to burn, which is going to be really exciting. So definitely going to keep an eye on that one. But then it might take a few months, maybe a bit longer for that to get fully saturated as well. But we're hugely expanding the capacity of blob usage. So this is really, really cool to see. And then there's the dashboard here, ethereumupgrades.com, which has all the information about the different upgrades. And this one is about Pectra. So that's it's activated. You can watch the live stream if you want. The video, there's a recording of it there. And then they've got some resources where there's different things explained, the main EIPs, little summaries of those, and the POAPs. I think those are not available anymore, but there were 2 sets of POAPs available. One of them was for 0.005 ETH, which was 2 POAPs, and then there was one for 0.05 ETH, which was 3 POAPs, and that was like the super committed POAP. So yeah, everything with Pectra went really smoothly. It all was good. So yeah, congrats to everyone involved. Absolutely huge achievement. Okay, let's get to some Rocket Pool news, and we are going to start here with this update from Schifrin about some bounties that have come in to the GMC and how they've been previous bounties that were approved and how the GMC is changing their designation. So Schifrin says the GMC recently conducted a review of all ongoing bounties to assess their continued relevance and importance to the protocol. Bounties were cancelled if they met one or more of the following criteria: they were outdated, showed no recent activity, or were no longer relevant to the protocol's current needs. It says you can review their decision below. So there were a bunch of them cancelled. These are FAQ document, node operator FAQs doc, RPIP review, Rocket Pool scorecard, eigenlayer integration, non-custodial staking as a service, patches work, DAO engagement discussions, support templates, FAQ integrations, and then Smart Node version 2, HTTP, API, Open API 3 spec and CodeGen. The bounty that was kept was the tree-gen testing support, and then there was some that had mixed support that could be archived or further discussion, and that includes liquid stakers FAQs and slashing mitigator. So if you have any thoughts about these mixed support bounties or have ideas of how you can help them succeed, then you can reach out to the GMC and give that information there. So yeah, that the GMC basically, the idea is that, we have costs, RPL price is down, we need to cut costs, and this is part of that process. Okay, let's go to the Rocket Pool Discord here for some information from Broke Director, and he said that good morning Rocket Pool community, you will see some juicy yield opportunities for rETH on Airdrome this week. We'll post it once the APRs are live on Airdrome. So Spartan of course works with Alpha Growth, and Alpha Growth were previously hired by the GMC to help get rETH minted. What's happened is that they're not actually hired at the moment, but Spartan's still working, helping Rocket Pool, which is absolutely awesome to see. So he then posted the yields. So here there are some Aerodrome vaults, liquidity pools, and the USDC rETH one is currently paying 9,000% plus in terms of yield. And that is because the TVL is quite small, it's $7,000. They really want that TVL to go up, I guess. The volume has been $323,000, so the APR is looking really, really good there. This is like early days, of course, so that number can change. Now with the Raptor ETH, rETH pair, the numbers are a little bit lower. You're getting around 0.59%, so that's not that good yield. And they've got $44,000 already in there. So I'm not sure what kind of rewards are going to be giving to these pools later as the time comes, but that USDC rETH one is looking really, really good with that 9,000% APR. If you're interested in chasing that, like, go and deposit into Aerodrome. Of course, DeFi is at your own risk. Me covering it here is not an endorsement or a sponsorship or anything like that. There was a report that came through from Art Democrat, which was really interesting, and this is MEV theft and neglected revenue within Rocket Pool. So this was a report that the GMC funded in around 15, so quite a while ago. So Art Democrat has a link to the full report with some high-level feedback, saying that in a nutshell, there was 96 confirmed cases of theft of MEV. So this is up from 17 when Ramana and Valdorf ran the report. There was 8.48 ETH stolen. That was up from 2.11 ETH previously. most of the theft is concentrated in 5 node operators who are accounting for 75% of all cases of theft. And definition of theft is if none of our 4 data sources show the expected fee recipient, we will flag it as theft. And then there were some other rewards that were kind of left on the table by the GMC because of them not the GMC, by the Rocket Pool node operators and the protocol, by node operators not using MEV boost when they were supposed to. And here there's like 7,450 vanilla blocks were produced, and then there was some ETH lost in missed revenue and from smoothing pool validators and from non-smoothing pool validators. And yeah, so here's how they define theft. There's some information here that you can poke around with the code. And it says if none of the 4 sources point to the expected address, we consider MEV fee diverted and flag it as theft. So the key takeaways recommendation are saying that whilst the theft is small, it's present and increasingly systemic. Rocket Pool misses out on hundreds of ETH annually due to vanilla block production and accepted bids being lower than available max bids. And the community protocol should consider moving to MEV phase 3. So that's required to use MEV boost, periodic reporting, and long-term ideas that align validated behavior via incentives or tooling. So Val actually had a comment here that was kind of interesting. He says, how can you clarify amount of ETH lost because of accepting lower than available MEV bids? It says if there was another relay with a better option, then that can be real. If there was a higher bid, it probably came in too late. The validator does need to sign off on the bid, and then Rocket Pool node operators don't really play timing games. And then with the concentration of theft being at 5 node operators, Val says this is interesting, it's probably worth trying to communicate, which is non-trivial. It's a kind of worms, but we could also get into a discussion around penalizing for continuous misbehavior. If we had the ability to exit validators, that would certainly be called for in my opinion, but that's an easier bar. So yeah, there's some data that's come up here that I think is going to lead to some discussion, and you can get involved in that discussion yourselves. Okay, we've got another update here from Spartan, and Spartan says that there's an update on the Ronin chain and how they're going to mint their rETH. So this was from the 7th of May, and it says Chainlink Bridge should be up and running this week, meaning last week, and minting should happen next week if all goes well, and that means this week. So hopefully in the next few days we'll be getting some nice mints of rETH. So here it says Ronin looked to incrementally mint rETH, starting with $500,000 worth and slowly working its way up to $3 million target that was discussed before. So yeah, if you are you're waiting for that, hopefully we'll start seeing some of that ETH coming into the deposit pool. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't sound like the numbers are the biggest numbers, right? Like, you know, the $500,000 is around 250 ETH, if I did my math properly. And then like the 3 million is obviously around 600, no, more than that, around 1,500, maybe something like that, ETH. Yeah, so the grand scheme of things, the numbers aren't that huge, but hey, like the whole point is that they want to get a market, or like they want rETH to be one of the flagship tokens of their DeFi ecosystem that they want to launch on Ronin chain. And if that's what they're doing, then hopefully the long-term minting of rETH there will be actually really good to see. Okay, let's head back to the forum here, and we've got a post from Dr. Doofus, and this is about funding the protocol in Saturn 1 and beyond. And Dr. Doofus says that it's been challenging to get this information together because there's lots of different pieces. And he says that what we want to do is gauge sentiment on foundational decisions that may set the stage for future governance before or during Saturn. So he says there's some different topics, so boosting the PDAO treasury diversification, and increasing rETH yield by reducing node operator rewards. So here there's some votes. So ETH diversification, should the GMC or should the PDAO sell some rETH immediately and convert it into ETH? So the vote here is 42% saying maybe, 42% saying no, and 16% saying yes. The ETH as an income stream. So should ETH income to go to treasury diverted from node operator commissions? 38% said no. 38% said it's good to build out the tooling for that, but don't use it immediately. 14% said yes and divert a small amount, and 10% said yes, divert a large amount. And then if yes, where should the ETH come from? And actually my vote is wrong there. I said none because I don't. Oh no, wait, I said that's wrong. Sorry, hold on a second. Yeah, okay. So yeah, I said node operator share is where the ETH should come from, but 65% of people saying that the ETH should come from node operator share, 25% saying some from each, and 10% of people saying that I don't want this, so none. And then RPL diversification, RPL diversion, sorry. So this is RPL that is in the period between Saturn 1 and Saturn 2, where it isn't phased out yet with the inflation to node operators, but it's in that period where node operators will get ETH and RPL rewards. So it's like, how can we bolster the treasury? So the question is like, should we divert some of node operator ETH RPL, that will be coming in that period, and should we move it to the treasury? And 78% saying that it agreed to a significant reduction after Saturn 1 is established. Here some people said 11% said agree, but a smaller reduction, and 11% said no, maintain the current node operator share. And then our ETH yield increase with Saturn 1. Should we increase our ETH yield by getting rewards from others? And 55% of people said no. 35% of people said yes, reduce the voter share and node operator share. 10% said reduce node operator share, and 0% said reduce voter share. So this is all to get like just the sentiment and see what people are thinking, and to get the discussions going for the areas where the attention aligns. So that is something to pay attention to, and I'm sure that more discussions around this will be coming up in the days and weeks to come. Okay, let's move on to some staking news now. And here with staking news, we have a Nimbus. So this is a version of Nimbus that is either low urgency for people who don't use the Nimbus validator client with a non-Nimbus BN, and a high urgency release for those who do use Nimbus validator client with a non-Nimbus BN. So this is version 25.5.0. You can upgrade it. And high urgency means update as soon as you can. Critical update required for Nimbus to function correctly. And that's for if they're not using a non-Nimbus beacon node. So look at that. Depends on if you are a Nimbus user in that situation or not. And if you are, then you can upgrade your Nimbus. It's quite straightforward. You just change the flags and everything should kind of happen. And then here we had a Fornac saying, please note Nimbus 25.5.0 is a high urgency release if you're running a Nimbus validator client pointing to a non-Nimbus beacon node. If this is the case, you should manually update your validator client as soon as possible. If you don't do it as soon as possible, there's a chance that you could miss rewards. Your blocks won't get produced properly, I think. Next staking update, we have a client here. This is Nethermind, and this is going to version 1.31.10. So this is a mandatory upgrade if you are a node operator on the OP stack chains. However, if you are not an OP stack chain validator, then this doesn't make a difference for you. However, if you're a Sepolia and Haleshki node operator, then the gas limit has been increased here automatically to 60 mega gas. So this is what we were talking about earlier, is that some people are already signaling that they are increasing their gas limits. Did I talk about that? I was supposed to talk about that. Oh no, I'm going to be talking about that later actually. Sorry, so I was getting confused there for a second. But yeah, there's some testnet stuff going on over here as well. So yeah, if you're a Nethermind user, you can update to that if it's applicable for you. We have a new survey from EthStaker, and I already started answering this. So I'm just going to show you some of the questions, but I'm not going to go through the whole thing. So the questions such as like, are you currently staking? Do you run validators? Do you run validators on mainnet with your own capital? For the validators that you run on mainnet, do you control the configuration? Do you professionally manage validators using capital provided by others? Do you run node hardware at home? Do you hold liquid staking tokens? Do you currently use staking service provider, etc.? And then there's some more questions as well. So there's 6 pages of questions, I think, 6 pages of questions, and you can answer those at your leisure. But please do take this survey. I'll probably be reminding people another couple of times. Lots of the viewers of Rocket Fuel are node operators, so please take this survey. The data that the EthStaker collects every year is really helpful in figuring out like what to do next for Ethereum. So it really does help if you take a few minutes and do this. Okay, we've got an update from NodeSet here, and NodeSet actually are upping their validators for people who are running their stakewise validators. So each node operator was eligible for one validator. That has been raised to two validators, and then that had actually later been raised to three validators, and it currently stands at four validators. There was also an announcement here about updating your Nimbus, depending on how you manage it, which we already talked about. But yeah, good stuff there by NodeSet. If you actually have a look at their vault that they have, the NodeSet private vault, this is now running a lot of ETH. Their TVL is 13,474 ETH, which is a huge increase from where it was a few days ago. And one of that is because they had this whale depositing millions of dollars of ETH, which is awesome, like $12.1 million worth. That's 5,134 ETH came from there. There's an OS mint, which was 4,419 ETH, and the OS boost, which was 860 ETH. So that's taking up like a big amount of that TVL increase there. But that's why the number of validators that each validator is running is going up. Of course, we are expecting that number to grow massively still. So hopefully we'll be getting more validators to run if you are a NodeSet node operator. Okay, and then here we've got confirmation that every single one of the Gravitar validators has been shut down. They've all closed. The RPL has been withdrawn, and if you minted XRETH or XRPL, those are available for you now to withdraw using the Gravitar front end. So yeah, that's good. And then some people took part in the campaign that Gravitar were running to delete the deposit pool, and that was if you minted XRETH and you held it for a certain amount of time, you would get some RPL rewards. So Veterinary here asked Nick, he said, have you heard anything from Gravitar about the rewards? Their Discord is almost dead and no one is answering questions there. And then Nick said the project is effectively wound down and they're full-time on Avant. The transaction is ready. They just need to trigger it. They may be busy with some stuff, but I'm sure they'll get it done this next week. And then Veterinary says, does it mean they'll rug the rewards? And Nick says, no, they're not going to rug or anything like that. It's not like they're worth much at this stage, but they will send it. Like I said, the transaction is ready. It's just getting the signers coordinated. So hopefully the signers will get coordinated soon, and then they will have those rewards out to you guys soon as well. Like Patches said, it's not going to be much money, depending on how much XRETH you minted. But hey, like some money is better than no money, and you hopefully should get it soon. Okay, sticking with staking news, there's some news from Lido here that was definitely raised a few eyebrows on the first reading, but then turned out to be a little bit less, like closer to a nothing burger. So Lido here had an emergency DAO vote announcement rotating a single Lido oracle related to a compromised Chorus 1 oracle private key. So stakers are not affected, protocol remains secure and fully operational. The oracle system is robust by design. So what happened here is that the keys of one of the 9 node operators, one of the oracle operators, was compromised, and the person who compromised it kind of let it slip that it was compromised by draining 1.4 ETH from the address, and then Lido were able to like lock things down. When you think about it on the surface, this seems like it's a really big deal. Like, the Lido oracle got compromised and what bad things could have happened. The reality is that not that much bad could have happened. What's really interesting is at the same time, there was some more oracles that had issues. So here, Atom says on the same day, other 4 oracles had issues, and Lido's oracle system needs 5 out of 9 to reach quorum. There's no impact on the protocol, but the timing was really bad. So like the impact on the protocol, like Atom here says, is that it's not a big deal because the worst that would have happened is until those bugs were fixed, the rewards for that day might have been delayed. At worst, that's the case that would have happened. If the person compromised, even if the person compromised all 5 of the 9 keys, Lido actually has some safeguards built in place about how you can change the values day to day, and the person wouldn't have been able to do too much damage to the protocol even if they did have those keys before yeah, that it would have just been embarrassing. So I think the take is like, staking systems are not infallible. Like there could be mistakes that happen. The likelihood of you losing your money is really low, but I think it just makes sense for you to diversify your stake. If you are all in on STETH, then swap some of that for rETH, swap some of it for OSETH from Stakewise or other services that you trust. Okay, so let's get to some Ethereum news now. And with the Ethereum news, the place to start here is with a potential change to the all core devs process. So there was some controversy a couple of weeks ago with what should and shouldn't be included in Fosaka, and EOF, which people thought would be included in Fosaka, was removed, and there was a whole lot of drama and tension around that. And Tim Beiko has been talking about it for a while, that the all core devs system needs to change, and it looks like that's what's going to happen now. So he says, over the past few months, I've been thinking about how all core devs evolves to support Ethereum's maturing ecosystem and ambitious roadmap. He says, last month I laid out a high level framework for it, quoted here, and yesterday I published it more in the weeds follow-up. So in short, he says the most important decision the ACD makes is which features to make the headliner of the next hard fork. Both the resource and opportunity costs are huge. If we get it wrong, we can affect the entire crypto ecosystem trajectory. So yeah, no big deal, right? So then he says, there's some framing things, opportunity costs. He talks about how the EOF removal was from Fosaka was a process failure. And he says we need to make sure that doesn't repeat itself. And then he says, my first improvement proposal is explicit orient fork planning around a specific focus and headliner, welcoming input from the entire community, not just core devs. So like what should be the standout upgrade of each hard fork. So for example, for Fosaka, that will be PeerDAS, which will help increase blobs, I think, to 48 blobs per block instead of 6 that we have now. And then he says this means that we need to introduce steps upstream where people can give their feedback. And then he says second proposal is to make it explicit to the community when they should engage. Core dev's full-time job is to keep up with protocol changes, but this isn't the case for everybody else. It's on us to solicit input at critical stages of the process. So he proposes a barbell approach, and he says we've done this before but just didn't emphasize it well. He says lastly, the proposal recognizes many efforts take more than one hard fork to develop. We've already had breakout rooms, etc. So yeah, TLDR is set a fork focus, solicit input at key points, and formalize breakouts into working groups, all core devs to provide input each fork. So it looks like this process will be implemented soon, it's pretty cool. So good stuff, Tim Beiko. Okay, next we got this update from Justin Drake, which I kind of front ran a little bit earlier, but Justin says that he has updated his validator's gas limit to 60 million gas, and that is a 66% bump from the post Pectra safe number, which is what we are all using now. And sorry, the previous safe number that everyone is using now. And he says, validator set the limit, vote with your validator. If you need instructions on what to do, go to pumpthegas.org. And then he says, when will we get 1 gigagas per second, which is 10,000 transactions per second on Ethereum? He says we need ZK VMs, proofs for consumer devices, ETH proofs for call number 2, real-time proving, and ETH proofs call number 3, gigagas L1. He says believe in something. So people have already signaled that they are doing this. I have changed the gas limit on my validator to go to 60 million gas as well. Here, Eric Connor says that they've updated Pump the Gas to give the default numbers of 60 million now. It says all consensus and execution client flags are on the same site, so it's time to scale Ethereum L1 again. We did this. There was a project doing this from the end of last year into the beginning of this year, where Pump the Gas, Eric Connor and others were involved in getting those numbers up from 30 million to 36 million. So now we're going again. Hopefully this time it'll be a much quicker process than last time because people know what to do now. But like I was saying that, Sepolia gas limits and Haleshki gas limits have been increased to 6 million. I think people just want to have a look at what that's looking like for a few weeks before there's a wider push to change it on mainnet. And I think what will happen then is that the client teams will release versions of their software that will be targeting that 60 million gas number within the client itself. So hopefully it'll be an easier process for everyone. Okay, and Anthony Sassano is another person who has updated his validators to a limit of 60 million. He says you can do the same for yours by going to pumpthegas.org. And then there's some screenshots that Eric Connor's tweet. If we actually go to gaslimits.pix, you can see that some people have already started boosting their, signaling the higher gas limit. I'm sorry, it's cutting off from the pictures, but 30 million gas is being signaled by about a quarter of Ethereum validators, about 250,000. 36 million is being signaled by about 750,000. Now, if you add those numbers, you get about a million validators, which is about the whole validator set we have right now. So the number of people who are actually indicating 60 million is just 13,000 validators right now, which is not that many validators. But like I said, I'm hoping that once we get, testing done on Sepolia Haleshki that we are starting to see now coming through with the client teams, and that everything looks good, then hopefully we should get that on mainnet. I'm expecting it to happen quite quickly, like, maybe 2 months at most. So that would actually be really nice to get that through. Okay, there was an interesting update here from Gokhan. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly. And this is saying that is excited to announce a Lantern Capital in partnership with Nethermind and Thomas, who is the Ethereum Foundation's executive director. Says joining as general partner on behalf of Nethermind, Lantern Capital is an early stage venture capital firm investing in founders, accelerating machine to ledger communications in the near AGI era. So there will be funding projects on Ethereum, which is really cool. And this is headed up by Thomas before he left Nethermind and joined the Ethereum Foundation. So Thomas actually had a statement out about this as well, saying after many months of thoughtful conversations, I'm pleased to share that Gokhan and Nethermind are launching Lantern Capital, early stage venture capital firm. So he says, I'll be contributing to Lantern Capital as general partner on the investment committee on behalf of Nethermind. Lantern Capital will support founders creating next wave applications and experiences where AI systems and blockchains interact effectively. It says to see potential for adaptive blah blah blah. So lots of it seems like AI stuff. And what's really interesting here is that he says, in this role, I act as the representative of Nethermind entity, the legal general partner and the economic beneficiary of the fund. I see these efforts as complementary, all aimed at supporting builders and fostering a stronger ecosystem. And he says he'll be contributing while working on co-leading the Ethereum Foundation. And then people said, is there going to be any conflict of interest? And Thomas said the fund had already been fully agreed upon when the Ethereum Foundation reached out 1 week after Gokhan had left the previous fund to build together, and then spent hours discussing how to handle conflicts of interest and then align it with Ethereum. The entire Ethereum Foundation team was made aware. This definitely deserves community scrutiny over time. So that is awesome. And then here the person says, transparency will be critical. Otherwise, it may raise a lot of questions within and outside the Ethereum communities. So yeah, well, they're welcoming scrutiny. So, scrutinize this, see how it all looks, and make sure that it all looks okay. And hopefully, there'll be some really cool projects that come out of this. Okay, BlackRock have changed their filing for the spot ETH ETFs for Ether, and it looks like they are the main change they want to make is changing language around the redemption of the tokens. So right now, you give BlackRock cash, they go and buy ETH, they store ETH with Coinbase, then you say, hey, I want to sell my ETH, then they sell their ETH and give you cash back. So that is a cash redemption system. Now what they're doing is in-kind redemption. So if you have ETH with a different ETF provider, you can now just bring your ETH to BlackRock and say, hey, I'm depositing ETH into your ETF. So that doesn't trigger any kind of capital gains, for example. And then with withdrawing withdrawing your ETH, what you can do instead of saying that, hey, you need to sell it for cash so I can take my ETH out, you can actually just withdraw it in ETH as well. So that's actually really cool. So James Seyfarth here says, notably the first application for any of the Ethereum ETFs to allow in-kind create redeem has a final deadline of around October of 2025. And then also amended the filings for Bitcoin ETF as well. So he says they actually, in the Bitcoin one, they added some new risk sections about quantum computing and the risks for Bitcoin there, which is something a lot of people are sleeping on. So yeah, there's a lot of risks for Bitcoin in the future. People really need to make themselves aware of what those risks are. Okay, here Fabda has an update about the Ethereum strategic Ethereum reserve update and what the numbers are. So Coinbase released their report for their quarter last week, and they have increased its ETH reserve by 19% quarter over quarter, and now at a second spot in the leaderboard. So they are going up, which is really cool to see. So if we actually have a look at the leaderboard, you'll see that Ethereum Foundation #1, then we have Coinbase, Golem, Gnosis, the US government, Lido, Ethereum name service, Digital, and you'll see here that they actually now hold around 800,000 ETH, which is around $2 billion worth of ETH, which is absolutely fantastic to see. So I'm hoping that more and more of these companies hold more and more ETH over time, and their balance sheets just get bigger and bigger, which will be awesome. Okay, Stripe are introducing stablecoin financial accounts. So you hold stablecoin balance, you can send and receive funds with fiat and crypto rails, accessible from 101 countries. And then there's documents that you can link to. This was really interesting because Thomas replied saying, this emoji, I don't know how to describe this emoji, but other people were like, this is built on Ethereum, this is awesome, thank you for doing your part to make the world better, bring the world onto Ethereum, and this is really awesome to see. And then there was this update here about what kind of stuff this will allow. So it says the Stripe Stables integration is insane. It literally became the best crypto bank with a single update. As an individual, you can now open an account for LLC, receive whatever stable coins you want, off ramp to your bank, wire transfer to others, or use a card, accept crypto and fiat payments, still use the vast ecosystem Stripe has for accounting and more. And this is being done via stablecoin, which is recently acquired by Stripe. Businesses that are already using Stripe can also quickly switch to accepting stablecoins. It was literally the missing piece of the puzzle we needed to make crypto payments for consumer goods actually accessible. So this is huge. Stripe is one of the biggest payment providers in the world. So yeah, this is amazing stuff that's happening with Stripe. But they're not the only company. Here there was news that Meta will be launching their stablecoins on Ethereum potentially this year. So that could be 3.5 billion users around the world could be onboarded to Ethereum. And this is from Walter Bloomberg saying Meta in talks to deploy stablecoins after abandoning landmark crypto project Fortune. So this was their Libra project that they obviously abandoned a few years ago. And it looks like they want to integrate payments still into their platform and ecosystem, and it looks like now they're just going to go through the stablecoin route where they will have their own stablecoin built on Ethereum. So yeah, here Darthy says the ticker is ETH, and there's the Ethereum logo in the middle, and around that we have BlackRock, Circle, Sony, Coinbase, Alibaba, Visa, Samsung, and a whole lot more as well. So yeah, it just means faster settlement, faster finality. And with the stable coins, like they're a cash cow, right? So if you take people's dollars, you buy short-term treasury with those, you can get 2, 3, 4, 5% yield on that. You keep the yield for yourself and let people transact in a really, really fast way with quick settlement, quick finality, and you pocket the yield on top. So it's basically the Tether model, and the more people you can have using your stablecoin, the more your yield can be. And some of these organizations are going to make billions of dollars from this. Okay, Grow the Pie has some really interesting stats post Pectra, and they said that it's the weekend, Intel can't keep up with the new all-time highs. Here they are in one post. So throughput all-time highs, base up 17%, OP mainly up 50%, Unichain up 800%, Swellchain up 850% in the last 30 days. It's huge increases in throughput. Stablecoins, Mantle up 5%, Fractal up 1.6%, Polygon ZKVM up 145%, WorldChain up 125%, Sonium up 11%. So the numbers are all up and to the right. The performance is increasing every day, and yes, the layer 2s are just getting more and more. They're just becoming more and more black holes for assets, and that's huge. Okay, this project launched DeFiScan, and this is an idea that's been in works for a while, and it's kind of looking at not Grow the Pie, the other one, L2B. L2B, what they do is they analyze the different L2s and see, where they are along this like stage 0, stage 1, stage 2 framework. And DeFiScan want to apply the same kind of system to DeFi applications. One of the first ones they went to is Aave version 3. So this is Aave version 3's decentralization review is now live. This is the biggest protocol review made by DeFiScan so far, as Aave version 3 has one of the biggest code bases in DeFi. It said after analysis, the protocol is at stage 0 and they have more information. So they introduce what Aave is, and they said that upgradability, their score is low, there's low autonomy score, they have Oracle feeds that rely on Chainlink, they have cross-chain vote, which is good, and they have low exit window score, and they have high accessibility score. So overall score is stage 0, so they've got improvements to make. And then it says the protocol could reach stage 1, adopting Security Council requirements for emergency admin multi-sig account, implementing fallback mechanisms around Chainlink, Oracle, etc., etc. So this is actually a really, really cool tool, but I think there's some that will, that's maybe some of the criteria still needs ironing out, and like the definitions to be made a little bit more clear and accessible. Like with L2B, now when you look at the pie, you can kind of understand which slice refers to what different area that needs improvement, or the ones that are good. I don't think we're quite there yet as a community with this DeFiScan metrics yet, so it doesn't quite jump out to us as what is good and what isn't good. But overall, this is a really cool idea. I really would love to see them do one for Rocket Pool. I think that would be really good. Okay, I got this snippet of a conversation that I think was really interesting, and it might hint to something that could come later. So here we have this post from Enshrining Pleb saying the Ethereum Foundation should consider appointing a CEO of apps. I guess this means that a person who would, liaise with app builders and just applications in general on Ethereum and help with apps. Kobe said, I'll do it. So Kobe's made these kind of comments before, and I guess no one's really taken them up on it. But now that we're in this new paradigm for the Ethereum Foundation, Thomas actually reached out, says, how can I reach out? My Telegram is this. So it looks like there's going to be some kind of conversation that's happening. People are just like really happy that these conversations can take place. They probably have already talked, because I know that most Thomas and Kobe both are online quite a lot. But yeah, I wonder what that conversation is going to be like, and I wonder how Kobe is going to get involved with the Ethereum Foundation. That'll be interesting to see. Okay, let's move on to some other news now. And the big other news of the day was the stablecoin bill, the Genius Act that was kind of working its way through the Senate, has failed at the cloture stage. This was a motion to proceed to the next stage, and that failed. We needed 60 votes to say yes and 40 votes to say no. However, 48-49 in the Senate to basically split. So what happened is, it seems like the Democratic Party members who were inclined to vote yes with this reconsidered their vote at the last minute, and this has basically not worked out at this stage. So what's likely to happen now is that they will go back and make changes, and then probably come back to it in a couple of months' time, if they can, and try to get the vote through then. It looks like there were some controversies around Abu Dhabi, in the United Arab Emirates, being an organization that minted $2 billion worth of the World Liberty stablecoin. And as that information percolated through the political sphere, Democratic Party members were upset that the Trump family are using stablecoins to enrich themselves. The yield on $2 billion worth of stablecoins is quite high. So I guess that some of that money will flow back to the Trump family. And I think it really angered some senators. I think that was kind of led by Elizabeth Warren. So it looks like, they'll go back and negotiate and make changes in the amendments, and then it will come up again in a couple of months' time. So that's going to be one to keep an eye on. Jake Chavinsky here says the Senate just tried and failed to pass the Genius Act. It was in cloture. And he says this version of stablecoin legislation voted down 48-49. Many reasons why it didn't pass today, but none that can't be addressed with more bipartisan work. It's not a no, it's just a not yet. It's a matter of time until we're back. So yeah, this should be going through soon, hopefully. But I think that the Democrats need a bit more assurances and some more regulations in place, basically, about how it will all work. Okay, we've got some interesting discussions around tokenization and SEC and stuff. So here, Matt Hogan, who works with Bitwise, says that stocks are going to move on-chain much faster than people think. In the last 24 hours, Robinhood made an announcement that would let Europeans trade stocks on Solana and or Arbitrum. That decision hasn't been made where they're going to put those yet. The SEC Commissioner Hester Peirce gave a speech about allowing stocks to be issued, trading and settled on blockchains, which is absolutely amazing if they can be issued there, and that could be like the source of truth for those stocks. That would be huge. And Superstate announced the opening bell, a platform allowing companies to issue and trade tokenized shares on Ethereum and Solana, and Superstate mostly deal with Solana, so there's some interesting stuff going on there as well. So it's going to be interesting to see which voices are in the room and what's going on there. Here's the statement by Hester Peirce saying that I'm thinking about potential exemption from registration that would allow firms to use DLT to issue, trade and settle securities. A sketch of the idea is here. So yeah, that could definitely make things very interesting very quickly. And then there was actually a crypto roundtable that took place, or is actually taking place right now while I'm recording. And it says Crypto Task Force Roundtable Tokenization Moving Assets on Chain, where TradFi and DeFi meet. Now, what's really interesting here is that there are a whole bunch of people from the SEC, Atkins, Crenshaw, Oyeda, and Pierce. And then the people who are here from Fidelity, NASDAQ, Invesco, Franklin Templeton, BlackRock, Apollo Management, Tokenized Assets Coalition, DTCC, and Superstate. So it looks like there are voices representing Solana in the room. We really need organizations like Etherealize to be in this room as well and kind of presenting that position. Later, there will be people from other places like University of Washington College of Law, Chia Network, Robinhood, Canton, Maple Finance, Securitize, Blockchain Capital, and independent researcher Angela Walsh. So there are going to be different voices in this room, but I really wish that, we've got this person from Superstate, if we had Danny Ryan or Vivek Raman talking there, that would have been really, really cool as well. But alas, we will have to wait for that to happen, it seems like. And finally, I'm going to end this episode with something that I've not really talked about at all since, I don't know how I avoided it for 45 minutes, but the crypto markets kind of had a good few days there. In the last week, Ethereum has done huge bounce. So the price was kind of hovering around $1,800 and it shot up. Basically, it had I think some of the best 3 days that's had since January 2021. The percentage increase in value was over 40%. It went from 1,800 or so dollars all the way up to around $2,624. Yeah, so there was a huge pump there in price. Absolutely great to see that ETH, climbed so strongly. Other assets that climbed really strongly as well are things like Rocket Pool's RPL. So this is the ETH beta play. Just a few weeks ago, this was $3.14, and it actually went up to $7.39 as ETH moved up. RPL moved up a little bit more strongly. Some of those moves have been retraced now a little bit, but the really great thing to see is that there's renewed strength coming into the crypto market, and Ethereum is leading this, which of course, I really, really love to see. So, this is kind of where we're standing. There is a bunch of short squeezes that have happened, and it seems like, that some of those positions have been closed or moved around, but the momentum has shifted sentiment very strongly. And people on the timeline are excited about Ethereum and talking about how, the Pectra upgrade is what did this, kind of joking about it. But in general, just talking about how strong, ETH has been these last few days. It climbed on its ratio with BTC. Solana fell on its ratio with ETH. Things like XRP fell on their ratios with ETH as well. So it very much was an ETH-driven move over the last week, and it was huge. It was just 20% day, 20% day, really, really big gains. So I'm really interested to see how it's going to play out in the weeks to come. There's this sentiment shift potentially happening on the wider macro stage. It looks like the US and China are going to agree to a deal with a trade. They're making moves towards that happening. It looks like Zelensky and Putin might be meeting to end the Russia-Ukraine war. it looks like India and Pakistan have reached a ceasefire in their skirmishes that they've had in this last week. So it looks like a lot of these, like, you know, macro factors that were kind of worrying for people have settled. The stock market in the US is bouncing back. It's going to be really interesting to see what the inflation numbers look like later this week, and maybe we'll get another move forward after that or not. But yeah, the platform has been set now for bullish moves, and people are definitely bullish on the timeline. And you know that I'm telling people, like, you know, go ahead, be unashamedly bullish, like, you know, be positive about Ethereum and get the word out. But we just need some more sustained price action to really keep this moving, and I'm hoping that we will get that in the days and weeks to come. Crypto's the best when it's moving up, you know. So anyway, on that note, I'm going to end today's episode. So thank you all for watching, listening, and being part of the Rocky Full community. I hope you all have a wonderful day ahead. I'm sorry that I missed a few episodes last week, but I'm back now and stronger than ever, and we'll be back tomorrow. So thanks. I'll see you then. Bye.